out of state. They know nothing about a particular area that may not be so desirable. Okay. And because this city comes up, you say to them, hey, with your budget and with your makeup, your lifestyle, I don't think you want to live here. Let me show you other properties. Or because you prefer not, showing properties in certain communities, that you then only send properties that you feel comfortable working or doing business in. You have to be careful because all it takes, auditors are still out there. These shoppers, they're still out there, right? Not auditors, I forget what they call it. Isn't it the shop? I forget what they call the shoppers, but they're secretly pretending to be buyers when they really aren't. And they can come to you and say, hey, I have a budget. I'm looking for properties in Essex County. And you only say, oh, well, these are the markets that I can show you properties in, but you failed to show them properties in cities such as Newark, Irvington, East Orange, etc., assuming that this particular client may only want luxury or they may only want certain markets. That is steering. And even though you probably don't want to show it a home in certain markets, if that is your situation and that's how you want to do business, you may want to have a team that can service those areas. But to not show a client an area because you feel it's unsafe or you feel it's not something that the client would be interested in without even bringing it up in the conversation and offering it to them for them to make that decision on their own, you're steering your client. So you want to avoid that. Use inclusive language. Use language in your marketing materials, advertisement, and interactions that is inclusive and does not discriminate against any group. Educate clients. Educate your clients about fair housing laws and the importance of equal opportunity in real estate. Now, for consumers, if there's anyone on here like myself that have experienced fair housing, discrimination or feeling steered, these are the things that you want to do as consumers to prepare yourself for the market and to have an awareness, okay? And knowing what to expect. So hearing how a realtor should handle you, now I have a few tips for consumers, and that is one, know your rights. I don't know where everyone is located, but if you are in other states, there are other protected classes that may not be protected in New Jersey and vice versa. So know your rights, familiarize yourself with fair housing laws and your rights as a buyer, renter, or seller in New Jersey. Understanding these laws will help you recognize discrimination and take appropriate action. Document everything. Keep records of all communication, interactions, and transactions related to your real estate dealings. If you suspect discrimination, document any evidence that supports that claim. You want to report discrimination. If you believe you have experienced discrimination in a real estate transaction, you can file a complaint with the New Jersey Division of Civil Rights, which enforces fair housing laws in the state. You can contact the NJDCR phone number. I will share via email. It's 973-648-2700. You could also visit their website, www.nj.gov/OAG/DCR. And additionally, you can file a complaint with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Now, I know there are a lot of realtors that have said, Queen, don't get blacklisted, Queen. You always telling on people. If you ever felt like, you know what, I don't want to be blackballed. I don't want people to not want to do business with me. I hate the attention. I just really want to call out what is right. Okay. I think there needs to be a change. And I feel like this person is not being handled appropriately, or this transaction is, and they're being discriminated against. You can do so anonymously. Okay. So knowing who to write to, who to call, ways to contact, don't be silent. That's the one thing you don't want to happen. Okay. Because if it may be a client or someone, that you're seeing, you're watching from the sidelines, but next it could be your aunt, it could be your uncle, it could be your grandparents, it can be you. Okay. It can be your children. Okay. So by following these tips as realtors, as consumers, it just makes the experience an even better one. And we're all about home ownership for all. Okay. We believe that, no one should be discriminated against, including our Section 8 renters. I want to touch on that really quickly before I hand it over to Jeanette, and then we'll transition into Tiana. But, you can't, if I call you and I say I have a Section 8 client that would like to see this property, be careful when you refuse. Be careful to tell a tenant, oh, I'm sorry, my seller won't be, my landlord won't be entertaining any Section 8 applicants. Well, why? Are you discriminating against, because you assume that because I'm Section 8 that I don't have the funding, I'm not going to be able to support myself? And don't let anyone call out the race card. Is it because right? We cannot discriminate even against Section 8. Okay. So discrimination, if a landlord refuses to accept Section 8 vouchers solely because the applicant is a member of a protected class, such as race, religion, familial status, disability, etc., this would constitute illegal discrimination under the Fair Housing Act. Also, even a refusal is not explicitly based on a protected characteristic, if the disproportionately affects individuals based on their membership in a protected class, it could still be considered a violation of fair housing laws. If a prospective tenant with a disability requires reasonable accommodations, such as a Section 8 voucher, secure accessible housing, refusing to accept the voucher could be seen as a failure to provide reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act. However, it's important to note that there are some circumstances where refusing Section 8 vouchers may be legal. In some areas, there are no legal protections for Section 8 recipients, and landlords are not required to accept vouchers. Landlords may refuse Section 8 vouchers due to financial reasons. So, for example, maybe the voucher will cover the rent, but if you have no income at all, a landlord may wonder, well, how are you going to pay the electric bill, the gas, the heat? So if they find reason to not accept you as a tenant because they don't see how you'll be able to survive in this unit, then a refusal, you have a reason to justify, why you are declining that applicant. Some properties may not be eligible for Section 8. They don't pass inspection. So with that being said, we cannot accept you, and maybe the landlord refuses to make any repairs to accommodate that tenant. Now that is different, but to just off the bat, hey, no Section 8, you can't advertise that. Okay, now if a landlord wants to advertise it in a certain way, they can, but as real estate professionals, we cannot. But still, there are these protected classes that have been mentioned. If ever you as a consumer feel like you're being discriminated against, whether a realtor is involved or not, again, you want to contact those who can support you in the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD, as well as the New Jersey Division of Civil Rights. And again, this information will be shared with you via email, so that way you have it on hand and you can utilize this if ever you need to file a complaint, or you need, just to get an idea of what it is that fair housing or being discriminated against, what that looks like. Jeanette, do you want to add to the conversation?
I love it. You gave I was taking notes down myself. But no, and also as well too, even with social media and our postings and our publishings, we have to be very careful with fair housing discrimination, because we don't want to, put a posting up to a specific area, group of people, and then someone else feels discriminated against. Especially as realtors, we go through a lot of code of ethics, especially on the National Association of Realtors website. There's a fair housing declaration, where as realtors, we agree to abide by these simple, say, rules or guidelines: refusing to tolerate noncompliance, inform my clients and customers about their rights, as Queen said, making sure we are knowledgeable, making sure that as realtors we're knowledgeable, but also we're providing that information to our clients and our customers about their rights and responsibilities under the fair housing laws by providing brochures and other information to make sure they're well informed. Keep informed about fair housing law and practice, improving my clients, customers' opportunities, and my business. One thing I did notice too, we constantly talk about, looking at homes and not steering, but also through the mortgage process, making sure we're not being discriminated during the mortgage process too, which also can happen. So just making sure we are knowledgeable and that we are taking action. And if we do feel as though we have been discriminated against, that we speak up. Absolutely. So more laws can be put into place to protect even more classes and, different groups of people. Well, we're all white people, but just different groups.
Well, thank you for that add to the conversation, which is very needed. And we wanted to open up with that because, again, as a realtor, I've been in the industry for almost 7 years. And again, we sometimes overly protect, we're overprotective, or we get comfortable in doing things that are not correct. That's not the proper way of doing things. And we wanted to make sure that we share that information in honor of Fair Housing Month. And now we want to transition into financial literacy, which is also very important. And we want to know, now that we're talking about housing, how can we get ourselves prepared? A lot of realtors, we sell homes, but we don't own them. A lot of realtors, we work with investors and we wait for that listing opportunity, but why are we fixing flipping houses, right? So Tiana is here now to share or give insight on, how we could utilize our credit, how we can get our credit to where it needs to be, and possibly, do investments of our own with the funding that would be available for us as entrepreneurs. Tiana, you want to take over?
Sure. Thank you, Queen. So as Queen mentioned, I'm going to be sharing some information with you guys about financial literacy because, as you know, April is Financial Literacy Month as well as Fair Housing Month, and we want to make sure that everyone have equal opportunities when it comes to housing, but you also need to know how to prepare your credit, whether you're trying to buy a home, rent a home, or even if you have clients who can benefit from this information. So basically what I'm going to be doing tonight is teaching you guys how to get negative items removed off your credit report so you can prepare for a major purchase. Again, if that's buying a home or even renting a home, because I help clients too who need to get their credit together because they keep getting denials when they're trying to rent a home. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and let me know if you guys can see my screen okay.
Yes.
Yes,
You
we
can see
can.
my screen okay? So I know we're to make sure that we're on track for time. We have a lot to cover, so my goal is going to be able to provide as much value as possible. So we're going to open up the floor for Q&A towards the end of the session. So without further ado, my name is Tiana Knight, and I'm going to teach you how to drastically improve your credit score so you can leverage it to reach your financial goals. So tonight, I'm going to be showing you guys what I did to raise my credit score to the 800 Club and how I helped many others improve their credit score as well, which has allowed them to buy homes, even start businesses. And most importantly, it helps them to take control of their financial situation. Can you guys see my screen okay? Because I'm using something.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
T, I can see it.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure because I'm used to using PowerPoint and I'm using Google. So I'm like, okay, what am I doing over here? So again, my goal for this training is to basically remove the frustration and confusion about how to improve your credit so you can finally reach your financial goals, as well as take action on improving your credit. And I'm excited about sharing this information with you guys because when I share this information, hearing people that have so many aha moments about the information that I'm going to share when I teach you how to tweak a few things when it comes to improving your credit score. So what I'm going to do is really break down this a little bit more. I'm going to share with you guys my step-by-step process for removing negative items from your credit report, even if you don't know where to start. So I'm talking about late payments, collections, charge-offs, and even bankruptcies. So what you're going to learn is a secret a lot of people miss when it comes to fixing their credit. And what I mean is how to remove these negative items from your credit report by not solely disputing with the credit bureaus. So before we jump into that, let me just talk about who this training is for, because we already know what the training is about, but I want to make sure you understand who this training is for. Now, this training is for those who want to understand how credit works and those who want to drastically improve their credit score. This training is also for those who want to make sure they improve their current situation because they're tired of not getting what they deserve. And this training is also for the person who is ready to take action in order to reach your goals. So if this sounds like you, you're definitely in the right place. But before we get started, I know some of you guys are like, well, who is Tiana Knight and why should I listen to you out of all the credit gurus and experts out here? Because I know there's a lot of people that you see in these social media streets talking about how they help people fix their credit. And that's a really good question. So let me give you a little bit about my background so you know exactly what you're dealing with and why I'm so confident in what I'm going to be teaching you today. So again, my name is Tiana Knight. I'm the founder and CEO of Wealth Wiring Consulting. I've been able to get all 3 of my FICO scores into the coveted 800 club, and I've been able to maintain my credit scores there for the last 7 years. I run a successful credit repair company, and I've helped hundreds of people just like you improve their credit, buy their first homes, and I also help my clients get secure over $700,000 in funding for their businesses. So let me tell you how all of this got started. Like most people, I don't have a struggle story around personal credit. My story is different than a lot of people who started in this industry. I didn't start fixing credit because I had bad credit. It actually was the opposite for me. I taught myself how to fix my own credit right after I graduated from college. My first experience with dealing with credit was when I went to go buy my first car. It was an Acura TSX. And I went into the dealership, right? And I was able to get a car with no cosigner. And I was so shocked. I was like, wow, wait a minute. You mean to tell me if I have pretty decent credit, I can pretty much get whatever I want. So at that time, I didn't know, much about credit. My credit was like in the mid 600s. And like I said, I didn't know about credit and I didn't know the power of credit, because if you know how powerful credit is and how to leverage it the right way, you can definitely leverage your credit to build wealth. But that's going to be another training for another day. So after that experience, I really started to get curious about how credit worked. I started teaching myself different strategies to improve my credit score. And then I got my first credit card from Bank of America, and it was a $20,000 limit. So a lot of my friends and family started noticing my success and started asking me for help. So just to share a few ways how I was able to help them, I was able to help one of my cousins get a voluntary repossession off of her credit report because she had to make a decision about her car. Her engine went and she couldn't afford to get her engine fixed, pay that car note on that car, and still be able to make all her bills every month. So she decided to let that car go. So I helped her get that voluntary repossession off. I also helped one of my friends get incorrect late payments off of their student loans. And that's why it's so important that I stress to everyone, you should check your credit periodically just to make sure that everything is reporting correctly, because most people, when they check their credit score, their credit report, you're only looking at the score. Now, she didn't know she had incorrect late payments until she went to go apply for a car and got denied and found out that her student loans had been reporting incorrectly for the last 6 months when she actually been making on-time payments. Now, I also helped another one of my clients, and this is just a few of the stories that I have to share, get medical collections deleted off their credit report when their insurance company was supposed to pay for their medical bills and they didn't. So my other friend was trying to buy a home at that time and needed to get those collections taken care of. So basically, through my friends and family's personal challenges, and I was able to be on the front line fixing their credit, and I learned a lot. And this is what inspired me to officially start my company, because I've been doing this for a long time. And I officially started my company in 2020, focusing on educating and empowering our community through financial literacy, because I realized that you know, if my friends and family needed help, there's a lot of people out there who can definitely use my help and who can benefit from my knowledge and expertise. So I'm committed to helping you rebuild your credit so you can leverage it to reach your financial goals. And right now, that's exactly what I'm going to teach you to do. So I want to make sure you guys are ready. If you're ready, just drop a 1 in the chat if you're ready to talk strategy, because I'm ready to get started. Now that you guys know how I help people, you know my history. Let me know if you guys are ready to chart strategy, because we don't have that much time. So if it sounds like I'm rushing, it's only because I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time and that we get through all this information. So let's go ahead and get started. So now, again, remember when I told you the secret I'm going to be teaching you is how to remove negative items off of your credit report that most people miss when it comes to disputing. Now, there's a very specific process that you need to follow, and it's just one part of improving your credit and cleaning up your past. So and this is the exact strategy that I'm talking about is what I teach my clients. Now, the idea of disputed negative items and getting them removed off of your credit report is hard. It's just crazy to me because it's really not as difficult as it sounds or as people make it seem. When I tell people credit repair is simply just involves disputing negative items off your credit report that don't meet the criteria of the law. Now, the law that I'm referring to is the FCRA, the Fair Crediting Report Act. And basically, when it comes to credit repair, you're simply just sending in these dispute letters to either the credit bureaus, your creditors, or these debt collection agencies, and you demand that they follow the law. And if they do not follow the law, these items must be removed. So here's the process in a nutshell, right? So step one, you want to go ahead and pull your credit report. You can get a free copy of your credit report from freeannualcreditreport.com. After you get a copy of your credit report, you want to make sure that you do a proper audit. You want to go line by line to look for any errors, any inaccuracies, anything that's out of whack. So for example, as you're going through that credit report, you start with your personal information. After you go through your personal information, your credit report will start with your revolving accounts, and then it's your installment loans. And then if you have any collections, you'll start to see those. And then you'll also see any public records and inquiries. You want to go line by line to make sure if anything seems out of whack. Then you highlight those errors and look for any negative items, and then you categorize them by the type or account. Now, the type or account, what I mean, again, if it's personal information that needs to be corrected, you want to list that by personal information. If it's a late payment, collection, charge off, repossession, inquiries, etc. Then you want to make sure that you prepare your dispute letter, because we're going to be sending everything through mail. We don't dispute online, and I'm going to share a little bit more about that a little later, but you prepare your dispute letter based off a type of account you're going to be disputing, and then we follow up every 30 days with stronger language. So let's talk about the data. Now, this is so important because when it comes to your credit report or credit score, most people, and this is a conversation that I have all the time, focus on their credit score. Yes, your credit score is important, but what's more important than your credit score is the actual data in your credit report. And the reason why it's important, because the information in your credit report makes up your score. So when your credit report is created with the data from each credit report, we want to make sure that we're cleaning up, any negative information, as well as making sure everything is reporting accurately and positively. And by doing that, you're going to get a guaranteed excellent credit score by making sure all the data is correct. So again, data is king. If y'all can drop in the comments, data is king. Let me know that y'all following along, because this is so important. When I have conversations with people and they're so focused on their score, yes, the score is important, but the data is just as important as the credit score. I see the comments coming through. Okay. Data is definitely king. So also, I want you guys to know that you have a different credit score depending on what you're applying for. So what that means is, let's say you're applying for a credit card. Your credit score for that credit card you're applying for will be different than when you're applying for a mortgage or when you're applying for an auto loan. And the reason being is because lenders is judging you slightly differently based on those factors, because there's certain factors that are important to them when you're applying for specific types of credit. Okay, so that's another training for another day. So I don't want to go ahead and get ahead of myself, but that's important to know because FICO has over 16 different credit scoring models. So there are many different types of accounts and dispute flows, but we're going to start with the most common one that's on 70% of credit reports, which are collections. So let me give you guys an example of how to properly dispute a collection on your credit report. Now, again, the biggest mistake I see when people are disputing is that they only dispute with the credit bureaus and they do it online. Never, ever, never, ever, never, never, ever, ever dispute online. And the reason why you never, ever want to dispute online is because you waive your rights. I don't know if you guys ever disputed online, but when you fill out a dispute and you're clicking in that box to dispute an item, and then you got to check this box at the bottom and they make you check it before you submit, it's some small print at the bottom that says buts in so many words that most of us don't read, that when you click this box, you give up your rights to sue, because per the FCRA, you have a right to sue when the credit bureaus, collection agencies, or these creditors don't follow the law. And we need to make sure that we retain our rights when we may need to sue for later rounds. Now, the second issue I see is that people don't actually dispute with the actual debt collector or the original creditor. Now, I know the average person would not know how to do this part, but you need to understand that this needs to get done because it's important so you can get the right results. Now, I know you see a lot of different icons on the screen, but let's go ahead and go to the next screen because I'm gonna make sure it makes sense. Now, when it comes to the first round of disputes, and this is for a collection, because remember, we're just focusing on the collection. You, as you see the person, the person over here on the left, the first thing you're going to do, again, is order your credit report from any negative item. And the negative item that we're focusing on today is that collection. So you want to highlight it, remove it, and categorize it. Since we know we're going to be working on a collection, we want to send in disputes to both the collection agency as well as the credit bureau. Because here's the thing, most people don't understand that when it comes to debt collectors, what they basically do is buy a bunch of debt on a spreadsheet for pennies on a dollar. And they, most of the time, they have no legal right to even collect a debt from you. It's just a numbers game. So that's why before you pay any collections, and I'm not saying not to pay your bills, but before you pay any collections, you need to make sure you validate that debt. So let's say, for example, a debt collection company bought 100 of non-collectible debts for 70% off, and they got just a few people to pay those debts in full, or they got people into payment plans. They would have made their money back real quick because they're banking on your ignorance of not knowing. So you need to make sure that they're following the law. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and send them a letter, certified mail, with language forcing them to validate that debt. Then we're going to wait 5 days or until we get a notification that they actually received it. And the reason why you want to do this, because what this does is forces them to stop calling you and dealing with you in writing, which is important if you need to sue them later down the line, because what we're doing is we're creating a paper trail. That's why when I tell any of my clients, they say, oh, this debt collection company called me. Okay, tell them to send it in writing to the address that they have on file. You never validate a debt over the phone. You never admit that the debt is yours. You don't even give them no information. If they know you owe this debt, they should know how to reach you. It also stops their ability to respond to the credit bureaus until they respond to you first. So then after that, you're going to immediately send a request to the credit bureaus asking them about the collection. And the credit bureaus have to make sure that all your information is reporting accurately on your credit report. And 70% of the time, they're not doing that. So you're basically, when you send that other letter into the credit bureaus, you're asking them to provide information about the data on your credit report. And the credit bureaus have 30 days to respond to you in writing, because by law, they're allowed 30 days to reply back. Now, this is where the boxing match begins, and you also have to have patience when it comes to this process. Despite what you may have heard, because I know a lot of people say, oh, well, I seen this on social media that said I can get this and this item off my credit report in 10 days or 5 hours. Like, that's not true. You cannot force the credit bureaus to respond faster. By law, they have 30 days to reply back to your response. And that's just how it goes. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the 3 types of responses you get after you send off your letters. The credit bureaus are going to send you back 3 types of responses. You're going to get one of these responses. The first one is deleted. Now, if you get a response saying that it was deleted, that basically means you got what you wanted and they removed that item off your credit report. Now, the second type of response you could possibly receive is no response. So that means that the debt collector or the credit bureau did not follow the law and they violated their rights. And what I mean by that is, if they did not respond in that time limit, because remember, we sent off everything certified mail. So we're actually watching the clock and making sure that they get back to us within that 30-day period. You can demand a removal of whatever item off of your credit report if they did not respond back to you. Now, the third type of response is that they provided proof that it should be there. So this means that the debt collector or the credit bureaus provided proof of that item. So I'm going to teach you on these next few slides what you do if you get a number 2 response or a number 3 response. So again, going back to our little dispute flow, we're going to talk about what you should do if you got a number 2 response, meaning that you did not get no response from the debt collector. If you didn't get a response from a debt collector within 30 days, that means that, remember, we have that proof because we have we sent the certified mail, so you should have the little receipt that they give you. No response by law means that these debt collection agencies must cease all collection efforts and remove any negative items that they placed on your credit report with the credit bureaus. So all we need to do is send another letter, certified mail, reminding them that they failed to meet those requirements. Now, we don't have to wait for them to respond because they already messed up and we have the proof. After you do that, in turn, you want to make sure you send that same proof to the credit bureaus and expedite that they remove that item off of your credit report, but you have to give them 30 days to do that. Now, if the credit bureaus don't respond in a timely manner, you also get to remind them as well. Now, this applies for both of them. We talked about the debt collector. Now we're focusing on the credit bureau. We want to make sure we send this certified mail as well because we have proof that they received it. Now, if the debt collector and the credit bureaus fail to address the issue that we have with them by not responding, because again, by law, they have 30 days to respond. If they don't respond, we can demand a removal of that item. What we do is we escalate that issue to the Federal Trade Commission or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I don't know why I always get tongue-tied when I say the CFPB. These organizations monitor what the credit bureaus, debt collection agencies, even different creditors do. You can escalate a complaint to them, or you can also work with a consumer rights lawyer because these agencies are in violation of your rights. However, most of the time it doesn't even get that far, but that's an aggressive strategy if they do not comply with the law. Now, we talked about the second way, the second response that they get. Now let's go ahead and talk about the third response. This is when you get something back in the mail from the debt collector or the credit bureau, or or both of them or one, saying that, oh, we have proof that this should be on your credit report. So when it comes to the debt collector, when they say that they have proof, and they come back with a list of documents or proof. Usually with the list is they send some sort of bill. That's not proof. By law, that's not proof. So what you need to do is make sure you examine the information that the debt collector send, because they're infamous for creating fake documents. So it's very important that you're reviewing those documents to make sure it's legit, because the debt collector will not have proof because they're not the original creditor. Only the original creditor will have proof of a contract you may have signed or something like that. So you want to make sure that you send a follow-up letter to them questioning their claims about whatever proof they said they have, because 90% of the time the debt collectors don't they don't comply properly, so they don't have proof. Most people, when they get that, oh, it's it came back verified, they stop the process. You should never stop, because sending a bill that they may have gotten from the original creditor is not proof that I owe that debt. So you definitely have to make sure you follow up with them. Now, when it comes to the credit bureaus, you want to question their process and if they're actually following one, because we all know the credit bureaus get millions and millions of requests every day about people disputing their credit. So you want to make sure that they're following the process by verifying and validating that every single thing or is accurate. Because half of the time, what the problem is, the credit bureaus do not process your disputes and just send a canned response, because they use automatic methods like their eOscar system, which scans everything in. So with the follow-up letter to the credit bureaus, you're not asking them to look into the matter. You're questioning their process and you're asking for evidence. They basically have to provide you receipts on whatever process they use to say that this information is accurate. And according to the law, they have 15 days to respond back to you. Now, when I mean with this 15 days, that's when we already, when they came back and said, oh, this is verified, you have a right to challenge that. And they have 15 days to provide those receipts and proof to show that whatever they said is verified is actually verified, because 9 times out of 10 is really not verified. Now, again, if the credit bureaus or the debt collection agencies don't follow through on what we ask them for and they don't provide a valid response, we can always escalate our issues to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau or the Federal Trade Commission, or even a consumer lawyer when they violate our rights. However, it doesn't really get that far, but those are other ways that we get these items removed. So that's basically the process in a nutshell. I know it seems like it is a lot, but it's really not. This is what the collection agencies don't want you to know, and this is definitely what the banks want to keep away from you. So now that you know the process, you know what letter to send, you wouldn't want to know what law to leverage and how to send that letter. All you have to do is just have a little bit of patience, because we all can do it. It's really not hard. The process for each type, each negative account on your credit report has some sort of process, and you can literally remove any negative item on your credit report as long as it doesn't meet the criteria per the law. And then again, in most cases, it doesn't meet the criteria, because 79% of credit reports have errors on it, according to the Federal Trade Commission. I know it's hard to believe, but it's actually true. A lot of credit reports have errors. Even things that are reporting positively have errors on them. So I know what you might be thinking, well, will disputing these items make my credit worse? Or why can't I just pay it off or settle the debt to improve my credit? Now, this is I get this question all the time about, and again, this is a disclaimer. Let me put this out here. I'm not telling you not to pay your bills, but this is a common myth when you pay your collections that, oh, I pay my collections. I hear a lot. I pay my collections and they supposed to just remove it off, or I paid this off in full and it's supposed to just come off my credit. When it comes to collections, it does not work like that. Only way an item will be removed off your credit report when you pay your collection is if you negotiate a pay for deletion with that collection agency and you got it in writing. That's the only way it's going to come off your credit report. Even if you pay that collection and you pay it to zero, that zero balance is not going to improve your credit score because it's still going to be reporting, excuse me, it's still going to be reported in collection charge-off status with the zero balance. And lenders care about the fact that you are in collection charge-off status, not the fact that it's in a zero balance. Excuse me, 1 second. I have to drink some water. Or can I just dispute it online? And last but not least, can I really remove everything off my credit report? So the answer to the first three questions, of course, is no, no, and no. And the last one is yes. As I already mentioned, everything that's on your credit report is not going to hurt to ask for them for proof. When we're sending in dispute letters, that's basically what we're asking them. We're asking them for proof, and we're leveraging the law to do that. Again, when you pay a collection, it doesn't remove it from your credit report. And again, disputing online violates your rights and limits your effectiveness. So basically, the truth here is, again, you can remove anything, almost anything off your credit report if you're following the right disputing process. And I'm talking about collections, charge-offs, bankruptcies, repos, student loans, tax liens, anything that you can think about that's in violation with the FCRA, which requires that all items on your credit report be 100% accurate, verifiable, and timely. If they're not, and the credit bureaus do not follow the law, these items must be removed off your credit report. So in closing, I want to let you guys know that I do have something special for each of you guys who want to improve their credit and want to achieve their financial goals faster. I'm giving everyone who attended the training a copy of my free DIY credit repair kit, which has my 7-step dispute process with over 20 plus letters for all situations. So to get this DIY kit, all you have to do is text START to 833-270-8939 to get your kit. So now I'm going to open it up for Q&A.
I have a question.
Sure.
I was trying to, so this is great information for everyone. I mean, we're in real estate and we always have clients that are like, do you know a credit repair specialist? Do you know, right? And they want to get something off, but they don't want to wait. They want to get it off now. So that 30-day period, I like that you highlighted that, because on average it takes about 30 to 45 days to close on a home. And it takes a while before we actually find one. So this is something that they could do now to kind of like, improve their credit so the terms are better. You mentioned freeannualreport.com. Is that the website? Because I would like to use that.
Yes.
Okay.
So the free, where you can get a copy of your free credit report is freeannualcreditreport.com. It'll give you, it won't give
credit report.
Yeah, freeannualcreditreport.com.
Okay.
So it won't give you your credit scores, but it will give you the data, because the data is what comes from each of the credit bureaus. And also, to add to your point about the collections too, you can also, because on my team, I have a debt settlement team. So there are people who come into my program who don't want to go through the credit repair process. They want to expedite things quicker. And what I mean by expedite things quicker, my debt settlement team, what they will do, because, if you're trying to buy a house, you need to get those collections cleaned up. They will work with you and negotiate on your behalf to settle those debts at a discount. Sometimes those debts could be 30 to 70% off, but these are the clients who want to pay their debts and we only pay it with the promise of a deletion. So what the debt settlement team does for those clients who don't want to wait the 30 days or longer to get those items removed, they talk about going ahead and negotiating for a discount with a deletion. We only negotiate if they're willing to delete. If they're not willing to delete, we're not talking about negotiating to pay.
Okay, so this is definitely some useful information that I'm going to share, because this will also help. I like that you know, you mentioned that some are debt collectors and they're collecting debt illegally, right? So
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate that information. So anyone else have any questions? I just wanted to make sure I got the right.
I don't have any questions, but I do definitely want to say thank you, Tiana, for offering, you know, to provide us with this startup kit to help, you know, individuals that have joined the chat to be able to get some deletions or get some, not deletions, but get some, help them with their credit.
Right. The kit has a lot of information in there. Like, we're gonna have to definitely do another training. Like, I had to cut this training down because Queen was like, we gotta make sure we on task, we on time. So I'm like, all right. So we
No, but definitely
definitely
needed. Thank you. I
right.
appreciate
So
you
it
joining us
definitely,
tonight.
yeah, we definitely, I wanted to, you know, this was perfect. I didn't want to overwhelm everybody with a lot of information too, because sometimes when you have a lot of information, it could just be too much, overwhelming. So I
Any
hope
other
it wasn't too
questions,
much.
ladies?
Thank you, T, for giving us, well, let me stop calling you T. Tiana. Yeah. She like, Christina, can you stop calling me that?
It's okay. You can call me T.
All right. Thank you, T, for dropping jewels, and I will be calling you soon. I'm driving, so I couldn't really take notes, but you know, I got your number. So
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
No
Oh, wait, Queen, I
problem.
want to do too as well. I want to do a shameless plug. So, ladies, you know, I belong here. We are having our networking mixer next week. Miss Tiana Knight will be there as well. So if you have any additional questions, you want to talk to her, you want to chat, definitely sign up on Eventbrite next Thursday, the 25th. Queen shaking her head like, yes, keep on going. At
Right.
City Tavern, the Annex in Elizabeth, New Jersey. We will be there, what was it, 6 to 9
Yeah.
next this upcoming Thursday, the 25th. So Tiana Knight will be there as well. So you can come there, meet her in person, and you know, she can drop some more jewels hopefully for you there too as well.
And I have one question because the ladies here, you may be interested in knowing. I hear people all the time that they have a way to protect their credit profile from others having access without authorization. So how do you go about doing that where your credit score is not visible to others and then you receive notification if someone is attempting to access that information? I may not be articulating it correctly.
No, that's fine. But it's
But I
two
think
ways you
it's
can.
something. Okay.
It's two ways. One of the ways you can do is a fraud alert. So when you put a fraud alert on your credit profile, you can either do it with one of the credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax, and they will notify the other two. So what happens with a fraud alert is you're letting them know I've been a victim of identity theft or potentially been a victim of identity theft. They're going to have you have to fill out a statement, and in the statement you're going to put your phone number. So anytime somebody runs your credit, you're going to have to go through extra steps to validate your identity, because I've done it before for myself personally. And I also keep my credit reports frozen. So for the first part, what happens is yeah, I keep my credit reports frozen. So the fraud alert is one. That's a more simpler, easier way. But the way that works is, say if you apply for credit and you're in the store, you know how we may apply for a store card. They're going to say, oh, well, we see that you have some. They're not going to tell you. You're going to get a call from their financing department, because this happened to me. And they're going to make you validate your identity. Once they validate your identity, then they're going to speak to their people and say, okay, she can move to the next step. Now, the main one is freezing your credit reports. Now, this one you have to do with each of the credit bureaus. I keep my credit reports frozen because I'm not playing with these people. So I keep them frozen. Whenever I apply for credit, I find out what credit bureau they're going to pull from, and I just schedule a thaw. They call it a thaw, where you can go ahead and unfreeze your credit report for a day, a week, and it'll automatically go back on whatever the time frame is, and it'll automatically go back on. So whenever I'm applying for credit, I already know in advance what I'm buying, and I unfreeze my credit for that period, and then I'm able to run my credit. So as soon as you take it off, it's effective immediately. But when it's frozen, you can't do anything with your credit. The other one, you can still run your credit, but you just have to jump through hoops. The second one, when you freeze it, no action is going on. Can't nobody see it. Can't nobody view it. Can't nobody touch it, but you need to make sure that you remember your passwords so you can unfreeze your credit reports quickly, because if you don't know, if we have a lot of passwords. If you don't remember that information, if you're trying to run your credit and you forget, it can be a headache. So
How do you go about freezing your account?
Oh, you have to go to each of the credit credit bureaus individually. So you have to go to Experian.com, TransUnion, as well as Equifax. You
And
can
request a
Google,
freeze?
request a freeze. You can do it online, but you have to go to each of the individual credit bureaus. Like if you do it Experian is not going to notify the other two. So you have to manually do it. And when you do it, they will give you a PIN and it will give you a password. So you need to make sure you protect your information so that you don't get locked out.
Right.
So that was a really good question.
Any other question, ladies, before we wrap it up? We like to end on time because we're respectful of people's time. We like to start on time and end on time. Any other questions, ladies?
I love that.
All right, it seems that we don't have any further questions at this time, Tiana. We thank you so much for taking the time out to, share more about financial literacy. Honestly, usually these type of sessions are in person, and I could never grab any information from any of the speakers. So I'm thankful we were able to have this moment with you, and excited to meet you in person next week.
Right.
Ladies, don't forget, she will be in person live and ready to pour into us again next week, Thursday, at the City Tavern in Elizabeth, New Jersey, our all-women mixer. Hope to see you all there. You ladies have a wonderful night. This recording will be available within the next 2 hours on our YouTube channel, so please subscribe to I Belong Here on YouTube. If you're not sure of where to find us, you can visit us at www.I-belonghere.com, and all of our social media links are located on the first page. Again, thank you all for joining us. Tiana, Jeanette, Lavelle, Madeline, Christina, and Erna. You ladies have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you.
too.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.
Good night.